Okay, today I have a hole that had to be cut for extra access. There was an existing access panel in here, and I have to put this back together. They needed more space, I think, to access some of these controls here for the shower. So what I'm going to be doing is putting in new bracing to put the piece back in. I have to trim it down just a little bit to make it fit again, and then also leave a space and install the access panel there. So that's what's happening today. And start by installing framing, and I mean loosely call it framing. It's really just bracing that I can use to anchor the drywall back into, so this all goes back together. So a little on the top, a little on the bottom. I gotta get a little creative here on these base pieces sometimes because I have to anchor it into the existing. All right, so here is how the piece is roughly going to look. Here's the access panel, which is going to go, honestly, I just put wood right in the way of where it needs to go, so I need to adjust that a little bit because it's blocking. Okay, I think we're good. We're good on all the edge pieces, good on the left. Somewhat good on this existing stud. And then I've got this space to hit too. What obviously don't want to hit any water lines. However, the main one that's closest has a block in front of it, and then the rest are recessed far enough, and I wouldn't even run screws over there anyway because it won't help anchor the drywall. So get one, and I can use my hands. And what's happening here is there's a little bit of holdout. There's a little bit of holdout in the center here because of that plate that they put over that. Because it pushes, it protrudes, it makes the sheetrock protrude a little bit, which most of that I can get rid of with my mud finishing. And the rest will pretty much tighten up the edges with what I'm doing here with the screws. Most everything with the final product with drywall is optical, which sounds obvious, but it's true because, I mean, there is no truly smooth surface, sort of like how I have lots of light in here right now in this space, and you can see this was the final finish before. I mean, I don't know if you can see a lot of this. This was final finish previously, and it's throughout. So it's smooth, and especially it being in a closet with no light, no actual light that they put in here. This is just my work light. One of the things is that there's always irregularity Jeez, I just broke that. All right, we're gonna leave that like that. Trim this down. This will probably take me about an hour and a half, including painting, which they didn't even expect me to do the painting on this, but I will do it, and I will charge them for it, which is fine. Because it's easier for everybody. I always like painting my own patches because then I can ensure everything looks as it should as it's being painted. And then of course I trim that down, and I shouldn't have, because I actually want that space filled, but that's okay. I can put another little piece down here. Okay. We're all figuring this out together. Okay, close. Okay, that'll do. Okay, we're back. I got all the pieces put in. Everything is kind of ready for mud. What I want to do now is test this door, make sure that it fits in, and it does fit in the piece in the hole, and I have access to the framing in there so that I can run a couple quick screws in. Make sure this thing is secure so that they can operate it safely. So what I'm going to wind up doing here is just putting a couple of screws in, and we'll be in good shape. Get one in on the side over here, and this will be good. Success. Now we have an access panel, which is resecured. Let's put some tape on this. Make sure all the edges are nice and beveled, because if you have anything that's protruding, especially on a smooth wall like this, anything that's protruding is going to show through the mud. And while it can be sandable, it can also not be sandable and be a giant pain. So I like to just kind of put a little bit of a bevel on the edges, just to make sure everything is flush or just slightly recessed. And purely dealer's choice here, but I'm going to leave this access panel in place for finishing this. Some guys would probably argue the other way, of remove it and finish into it, just because it's a little bit easier to finish while it's out, but it doesn't matter either way to me because I'm good with a knife, so this will finish just fine. So we're going to put the first coat on. This is a very tight space, so I apologize for any shadows, but you can't see it on the camera, I have almost no working room here. I've got my arm inside the closet. And this is me being finicky, even though this will likely not be seen. And you can probably, I mean, if you can see on the camera, this is not in anything in my scope that's being done today, but that is everywhere in here. So the nice thing about using 5-minute mud like I am here is it's ready to sponge very quickly. Almost by the time I get my pan cleaned up and wiped out, it's ready to sponge the edges a little bit tidier. You can see they start to turn white. I don't know if you can see that, but they start to turn white when they're curing. And then I also smush down just a little bit some of the stuff that is kind of sticking out. And I'll make some wave lines here, and it's not a big deal. This will all get basically flattened out with the next coat. So if I was more patient with this, I would just let it sit for another couple minutes before doing this, but it's not necessary because this will all get addressed in the next coat. Just try to help it have fewer high spots. All right, we're ready for our second coat. First coat's a little bit cakey still, but that's okay. When you put the slick new stuff over it, it lays down. And whatever doesn't lay down will get sanded. So again, this is a closet. Typically on an area that would get more natural light, I would throw 3 coats on it and maybe let it cure up just a touch more before I do my coats. But this is a very poorly lighted area, and the only reason there's any light in here right now is because I have my work light, but without that, this is insanely dark. So any inconsistencies that are showing up right now are very minor, and they will sand out at least to an adequate point. I'm going to do a few minor touches here with the sponge, and then I'm going to put a dryer on this, which is my hand dryer. And then once it's cured up in about 7 or 8 minutes, I will sand this, and then we'll be ready for paint. All right, they're fully dried. Doing a little bit of touch-up sanding, which is honestly, in this, overkill, but it'll make me crazy to leave it looking too ugly. So I've got plastic on the floor. I'm just going to kind of do a little tune-up sand on this, and then we'll come back for painting. Now for paint, I'm going to do 2 coats, and that'll be it. All right, that's coat number 2 on here, and it's about 50% dry, and this is about an hour and 40 minutes since I started, so it's a pretty good morning. And so yeah, that's it.